She chat. Big homie, you
Yeah, stay
stay.
for 5 minutes. It ain't 7 o'clock yet.
You stay. I'm live on my thing.
Mm-hmm. Might as well start. Tell everybody, tell somebody to join in.
Exactly. Everybody send it out. Send a link. Send it out.
So tonight in the She Shack, we are going to be talking about something that is so important. A lot of times,
Next start time, yeah. Y'all will tell a friend to join in and everything.
you're actually live. We're watching you walk right into the live feed, pour a glass of wine, standing right here. Like, seriously?
You can take a countryman up the country.
7 o'clock.
So.
Tell everybody to come on in.
Share, like.
Definitely share, definitely like.
Definitely share, definitely like. So we in the She Shack.
Introduce people and everything.
So, in light of,
Who you got in She Shack?
can I get there?
Well, it ain't time to start yet, so you know.
I love our director.
Because, I mean, like, this crazy. We already live. People see
But
this.
it ain't time yet.
They see this foolishness that goes on.
Well,
It's
it's behind the scenes.
How
How about that?
it's crazy.
Get yourself together.
Oh, brother.
As you start know early.
Well, that's because it took us live. Like, we're sitting
You
here.
looking good though. Ooh,
Tanya,
sexy.
who's this? Tanya Bailey is watching us, and thank you for tuning in, Tanya. Tonya, am I saying your name properly?
Bailey.
Yeah.
That's your people, right?
Hey, Anna.
See?
Thank you for tuning in.
You sure you got the right? You sure you invited enough people?
So we about to get right to it. So tonight in the She Shack, we are talking about a topic that a lot of people like to shy away from, and it is sexual assault and sexual violence. There are so many individuals that are affected by sexual assault and sexual trauma. And if you know someone or you yourself have been affected in some way, we have posted in the She Shack conversation group the 24/7 hotline available 24 hours a day, the platform ring that is leaders in sexual assault and sexual violence. They have counseling available, hotlines available, they have referrals available so that you can reach out to therapists, or if you need to reach out to your local police department, there are options out there. We will be posting things in the group, standing in solidarity with those that have been affected by sexual assault or sexual traumas. Tonight in the She Shack, I actually have, yes.
Like and share. 7 o'clock. Let's roll.
Oh my goodness.
So tonight in the She Shack, I have someone that's very near and dear to my heart, who actually brought light to the situation and wanted to use this platform, the She Shack, to illuminate sexual assault that are affected not just by women, because a lot of times we think of sexual assault and we think of women, but we forget about the men that are also affected by sexual assault and sexual trauma. So tonight I have the honor of my son, my oldest son, Christoper, also known as beatbruzer, sitting in the She Shack tonight, and he's going to share some of his experiences related to sexual assault and trauma. Also with me tonight, who always love to sit in on the She Shack, is Kashaya Foy. Kashaya loves sitting in with us. She's here as, yeah, she's a she-shacker, so it's like she travels all the way from Jersey every Tuesday to be here with us in the she-shack, and I thank you for joining us again this week, and we're just gonna get right into it. So, I'll start with you, Chris. You want to,
You got sound on everybody on Do Not Disturb. Your phone's on Do Not Disturb.
Yeah, my phone is mobile.
okay, I'm gonna ask this, my husband, who is the person that's controlling all of these cameras, to get these things together before we actually get live, because it's just like crazy how every 2 seconds you're talking about hit the like button and sharing this and that. Why can't we have those things already? Maybe we need to make some cue cards. Like maybe it's like Action 6 News or something, so you can stop interrupting when
You know
we're
what?
live.
I would get some cue cards from now on. You would have some nice little cards so you
So
can see
maybe
what
that's
you're
what
saying.
we should
And you
have.
better pay
So-
attention to them when I bring them out too.
So we're gonna jump right into this conversation. I guess however you guys want to do it, because this is She Said. It's not really orchestrated. It's not like a little uptight. So I hope you got you something to drink, because we talk. We get our conversation piece going, and we get right into it. So Chris, I just want to start with you. You yourself have decided to illuminate sexual assault as it relates to men.
Right.
Because a lot of times when we're talking about sexual assault and we're talking about men get emasculated. Men are now considered to lose their manhood if, in fact, they have some kind of sexual trauma or incur some kind of involuntary sexual act that they're not just like, yo, you a man, you know what I mean? You a man, you gotta, how this gonna happen to you? So I am so happy that you are going to shed a little light for us tonight. So let's just talk about some of the things that you have experienced or your experience with sexual assault, and have you felt emasculated by experiencing sexual trauma?
Well, absolutely. It's kind of, how can I describe this? It's already hard enough for a man to like open up about his problem.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to like such a touchy subject as sexual assault, and believe it or not, it happens to more men than you think. I think I read a study not too long ago. It's like 1 in every 4 or 5 men has dealt with that.
Okay.
So there's a lot of men that's suffering in silence, and I just made my post last week to show that suffering in silence isn't necessary.
Okay, what is the post about? Like, kind of elaborate and kind of give our viewers, if an idea of what this post is about as it relates to sexual trauma.
So the post was basically me. It was a public statement of me, and more so me accepting the fact that it happened to me. And as a step in the healing process, I felt like if I get it out in front of the public, it wouldn't be a secret anymore. It's not an extra burden for me to carry throughout my day, and for me to like consistently worry about, because not only does it mess with you masculine, it doesn't mess with you like with that, it also messes with you mentally, because now you question everything you do now, because now all of a sudden you're looking around trying to defend yourself from it happening to you again. So your guard is up 10,000% more. So that can cause anxiety and all this other mental health issues. So that's kind of what the post was about. The post was more so stating that it happens to men, it happened to me, it can happen to anyone. So we should be more aware of it and be more vocal about it, so people are more aware of it, instead of men should be just suffering in silence about it, because everyone goes through something. That's what makes us us.
Right.
You know what I mean?
So in the process of your healing, what are some of the things that you find that is beneficial, that helps you get through or go through the process of not just surviving it, but healing from it and no longer being a victim of sexual assault, but actually being a survivor and an advocate for someone else? What are some of the things that you found solace in that has helped you in your healing process?
Actually saying it.
Actually saying it.
Like actually looking at yourself in the mirror and saying like, I'm a victim. You don't want, no one man wants to be, you know, a victim of something so heinous as this is. So saying it to yourself, accepting the fact that it happened, and instead of having the past dictate your future, accept what happened to your past, live in the present, and hope for a better future. Because after you get that, I'm telling you, after I did that post, it literally felt like 10,000 pounds off of my chest.
Wow. Wow.
And how long did you keep the secret?
From the public, only a few people knew, but from the public, it happened to me rather 8 years ago. Yeah, August would be 8 years.
Did you find that you experienced some kind of guilt? Like, did you find yourself feeling like I could have did something different and
Yeah,
this
it was a
would
lot
have
of
happened?
self-guilt. There was a lot of self-guilt.
Okay.
Because like after like the fact, you're just like, well, how can I allow this to happen to me? But what you also gotta accept is there are crazy, like manipulative, charismatic people in the world that can literally get you to do whatever you want to do. And they really play on that. They play on people's weaknesses to get what they want out of people. And I was just a victim to that trap.
I know for me, I experienced sexual trauma as a child, and I remember feeling guilty and almost like ashamed and not really wanting to tell because there was parts of being sexually stimulated that I found pleasure, and even as a child, right? So, and because of that act of feeling pleasure, I found myself having a very difficult time differentiating, was it right or was it wrong? You know, because a part of me knew that it was wrong. Like this didn't feel right as far as it's something about this is just not
Unnatural.
you know. But then as a child, because at this time I'm about 5 or 6 years old, and I'm being sexually stimulated as a child, and I'm not sure how I feel about this. And I felt like it was my dirty little secret. Like I didn't really want nobody to really know. But then I also went through feeling rejected when the assault actually was over. When, you know, I'm no longer desirable to my predator, right? So now it's like, what's wrong with me? You know, why don't you want me anymore? Because again, knowing that this act itself was not right or natural or what's supposed to be happening, I did not know at 5, 6 years old how to differentiate that. You know, and lived a long time feeling like it was my fault. It affected things in my life, like relationships. That was one of the biggest things of trusting and having relationships and maintaining friendships and relationships because of not knowing how to handle emotional situations. You know, not knowing how to handle no. Because no feel like rejection, and rejection relates back to being assault. Right, and it's a constant reminder of what actually happened. So that was like one of the biggest obstacles for me, like in my healing process. Because I think when you say healing or surviving, that means it's ongoing. Like that means that I'm constantly evolving and healing and growing, and I've heard people say, get over it. It happened. That was when you was a little kid.
And that's
Well,
literally the worst advice anyone
I
can
was
give
just
you.
about to say, that is the worst
It's
thing.
literally the most selfish thing someone can say about it because you won't want someone to say that you were the victim.
Right.
It wasn't on your fault.
right.
How would you feel if something that's personally traumatic to you?
Because at the end of the day, you're violated.
Right.
It's no justification for that. There's no way around that. You strictly violated me. So again, when you're violated, it's how do I come back from this? Like you just took something from me, and I didn't want you to take it from me. So now I'm dealt. I have to deal with this on a day-to-day basis. That something was taken from me that I didn't want taken from me. So how do I rebuild myself back up with that? And I can only imagine, like, for you, like, how traumatic that is, because like we were saying before we even went live, like, especially in our community, this is one of the biggest things that is swept under the rug, as well as mental health. And for me, you know, as I sit back, I watch stuff on social media, our men catch it the worst, because it's set for y'all to be so strong and so masculine and this, that, and this, and nothing is supposed to happen to y'all and make y'all feel, you know, less than. But truth be told, it's stuff going on with y'all just like it is with us.
Right.
And because of the way that we were taught, it's like men aren't supposed to cry, that type thing. You know what I'm saying? Y'all not supposed to have that type of emotions. You just got to deal with it. I don't think that that's fair. And for you to even be so open with this, like, I can only imagine what your testimony can do for so many other men, or, you know what I'm saying, young boys out there who might be struggling with the same thing, and like, yo, I don't have nowhere to go, or I can't tell nobody this. Like, I commend you.
It's crazy that you say that because I have a friend, I'm not going to name his name. He actually, after I made that announcement, he came up to me and told me he was also a victim. And that kind of blew me away because, you know, it's one of those, it's the person you least think about. It's the person you like, well, there's no way it can happen to him, but more than likely, it probably did.
You were actually, I know for me, I was like taken away by how many now men that were touched or violated, molested, or even traumatically sodomized or raped at a young age. These young boys become young men who become damaged men, and it crossed all cultural barriers. It has no color. It has no, you can be Asian, you can be European, you can be African American, you can be Puerto Rican, you can be Indian. It literally crosses all cultural barriers, and it affects 8.9 million people every single year. I think the one thing that really gets me, and I'm not, you know, that gets me the most about our own community is what happens in my house stays in my house. Like, I can't stand it. You know what I mean? So, no, it's like if something happened in this house and it hurt me, it don't just stay in this house. We have to talk about it.
Right.
Because, come on, like, rightfully so, I'm supposed to suffer in silence because you don't want somebody in the neighborhood to know your business. That's not fair, but we have grown up on that. We have stood by. I'm even guilty of saying to my kids when they was little, don't be telling people my business. What happened in here stays in here. You know, not even being ignorant to the fact or being so comfortable in the fact of, like, my husband and I providing a safe space for our children, you know. But it was later on down the line, even with another one of my children that I found was affected about sexual trauma. Yes.
I got a question. You made a comment about what happens in this house stays in the house. Is that, I think a lot of people overreact to that. I think it's more so the concept that what happens in the house stays in the house, as far as you don't go talking to somebody that's don't have good intentions to you about your business, because it ain't gonna come out right.
Right.
So that's why the concept of what happens in the house stays in the house. But yeah, as far as talking to somebody, yeah, you do talk to somebody about it.
Absolutely.
That's a big difference. So,
I think, and I do agree, but I also think that we need to clarify as parents when we say that there has to be a clarification. Like, we can clarify amongst ourselves, but we also need to make sure that when we're expressing this and we're saying, hey, family business is family business. But if there's things or someone that is hurting you, or is something that's hurting you, talk about it. Don't suffer in silence. Reach out. Talk to your parents, talk to a loved one, talk to a family member, talk to a friend. And also when you say talk to a friend, don't put your friends in situations to make them hold on to a secret that is something that has been so violent and something that has violated you. Because remember, your friends are just that, your friends, and they're taking on this burden and carrying a deep secret and watching you suffer in silence. You understand? So I think it is really important for us to make sure that when we're reaching out to people and expressing how we feel, we have to also be able to receive what they're giving us as far as suggestions and as far as help.
what should a friend do if somebody was to come and confide in him? I don't like it's alcohol. Somebody come and confide in you, tell them something like that, tell you don't tell nobody. Should a friend not say nothing, or should they actually talk to powers that be to enlighten the situation?
You must be gonna pop another one of these bottles, cause I mean, you right here chugging. I'm talking about she almost empty over here.
Grown ass man, I don't want to do
You better hurry up, cause Eddie opened a good one too. But what I do think when with respect to the question is when you're talking to your friends and you've been violated in a sexual or traumatic, like just been violated, and your friend may say, I think you should get help, or maybe you should tell. I personally feel you should always tell. I feel that you should always report it. I don't care who it is, if it could be a loved one, if it's a parent, an uncle, a friend, a cousin, a stranger, whomever, even if it was someone that you went out on a date with, and then you decide, y'all are getting a little aggressive in the moment, and you decide this is not something you want to do, you always have a right to say no. That should always be respected. And on top of that, if that is not respected, and if you are violated, you should report it. You should not allow them to get away with it. Because when you don't speak up, they continue the violence. They continue to be predators, and they continue to rape and molest and violate. So that's what I feel. How do you feel about that?
I feel the same, but it could also affect the victim as well, knowing that person that affected them is still like unjustified. It hasn't been brought to justice. It can make someone. It could really make someone very uneasy.
Right.
Even thinking about that.
That's very true. Sexual trauma.
Let's talk about how sexual trauma affects you, the victims, socially.
Let's talk about it. How did it affect you socially?
I didn't want to leave my room because I felt like at any point in time it could happen again because I allowed it to happen so easily at first. So not only did
let's stop right there. You say you allowed it to happen so easily.
That's just like the thought process of the victim, because if you felt like you always feel like you could have avoided it in some way, so you always feel like you fell for it, But acceptance for the fact that, all right, this is just one of those games of life that I didn't pass.
I disagree. I do disagree with that. And I'm going to tell you why I disagree with that. Because it's you still remaining to be a victim and allowing your sexual predator to kind of get off scot-free. You carrying all the burden, but I allowed them to do it, or I allowed it to happen so easily, or it's always you still blaming yourself.
It's the entire process of the after. It's
process
literally
of
the
after.
It's literally the after effect of it. You literally question
Everything.
everything you do. And
So even now, you said this happened maybe about 8 years ago. So even now, do you think that it still affects you today? How you socially interact with other people, relationships, job, work, or even do you feel that there is a barrier of fear that holds you back from persevering and moving forward?
Absolutely, but I also feel like you get fed up. Once you get to a point where I can't let this fear or this something that happened to me that I can't even change. I can't allow that to continuously dictate my future, because not only is it affecting my present, it's going to affect my future.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
by getting in front of it, by telling other people, so now they know, it's no longer a secret. So you have nothing to hide about it.
So now you're empowered.
So now it also makes me makes me more vocal about it. Like I told you right before the thing, it's like the study said like 1 of every 4 or 5 men are affected by it. And what was the number you said of it yearly?
It's 8.9 million people affected by
So
sexual
1
assault
of every
and trauma
5 person
each year.
is a man that happens to, and they don't talk about it.
Yeah.
Because
Because I think the thing is, going back to, sexual trauma affecting men in free world and in prison, that happens a lot. Men are violated and raped in prison. There's the old joke, don't drop the soap, but that's a real thing.
Myth.
It's a myth, but it's actually minimizing the sexual trauma that men actually incur when they're in prison. So I think that this was an excellent opportunity to talk about sexual assault and for men not to think because you've been sexually violated, it doesn't emasculate you, and it absolutely does not make you less of a man. It does not mean that you're gay or a but if you are, I don't have anything against homosexuality.
Right.
I don't have anything against people that are bisexual. I do believe that, when people are violated, it can bring about a mass of emotions and confusion. I know for me it did, because my sexual predator was a female. And so because it was a female, some people said, well, that seems like that would make you not want to be around females, or you not want to have, but actually you kind of get stuck. I kind of got stuck in 1983, and even it's 1993, and I'm still kind of can remember what happened in 1983, 10 years later or greater. Even today, because one thing, my son, that I have been very transparent, because I've found actually my healing in my transparency. So I've spoken a lot about being sexually violated, even giving some details of how that affected me. Living alone was one of them. Living in an apartment on the first floor was another one of them. Taking a shower in a home alone. Living in fear. Feeling most vulnerable in the bathroom and in the shower. Those were things that really I had strongholds. Can any one of you relate to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm still like that. That's a shame.
It really affected me as a man socially, because how do you tell another male friend that? And then have them not look at you differently in that light, because, men have different perspectives on that. And men will treat you differently as such.
Really?
Yeah.
When you say treat you differently, treat you differently how?
I mean,
They don't want to kick it.
They don't want to kick it.
Now they
because
questioning you.
If you gay or not.
Yeah.
Really?
Let's say if you smoke with someone, what if you got like AIDS or whatever the case may be, a sexually transmitted disease to the person you don't.
It's so
These are
jacked
things-
up because I really feel like it's so much harder for the men than it is for us. Because
Why do
again,
you say that?
because first of all, they expect us to be emotional. You feel what I'm saying? So everything we do is with our emotions. But as a man, it's like, nope. What you crying for? It happened.
But
Like
don't you think that
said,
even
get
kind of
over
starts
it.
with the childhood? Because
Yeah.
you remember, like, some people used to say that I allow my children to be too emotional. Like my son, I'm like, I would never say to my sons, "You a boy, toughen up, you don't cry." No, because crying is a natural emotion. You're supposed to cry. You're gonna feel what you feel. You know,
Ain't no crying in football.
see that one. That's like those kinds of statements, but it really kind of makes a man feel like he's less of a man if he show an emotion of tears. So let's
Or
say
any emotional vulnerability.
vulnerability. Okay, vulnerability. I'll go with that, vulnerability. So, but okay, let's just just putting it out there. Say if you lose somebody significant in your life and you're a man, you're not allowed to have a public cry that you've lost someone that was significant in your life.
I mean, think of it this way. I mean, men are like, early on, men are like, they have like the innate sense to protect women. But no one has like the innate sense to like check on the mental health of a man. Everyone expects the man just to be all right because he's a man. He got to get through what he has to get through.
Well, when we're talking about mental health, let's kind of let you talk about how this affected your mental health.
Well, I already touched on what it did socially. I just don't know where to start.
You start anywhere, cause in the she shack, you can go like it's not. It's just what we do here. This platform here, it's safe. This is a safe place.
Right.
This place where you're not gonna find any judgment. You're not gonna find any bias. You're gonna find transparency. This room is always filled with love. We always support, and our biggest thing is that we empower. And so this is not about just empowering women. This is about empowering people. This is about having the difficult conversations. This is about healing and about making sure that we can give resources to those that need it. So you start wherever you want to start.
All right, so I'll start here. When it came to like the day after, or the days after, like the after effect of it, it's, and you endlessly question this on whatever's in your head. You instantly question yourself about it. So now anxiety starts to build. Social anxiety starts to build, and now everything you do has 2 or 3 questions to it, and those 2 or 3 questions have 5 more questions behind it. So now you're constantly questioning yourself, and you feel like you're going crazy because you're questioning yourself over things that really don't need to be questioned over. You're just trying to protect yourself from something that happened to you. Really, you can't live with that fear, because that's when you stop living life.
Do you think there was a point on the days and the months and the years after that you stopped living life?
I felt like life was passing me by because I allowed it to control the fact that I didn't want to be in public, because I felt very gray in a world of color, if that makes any sense.
Wow, that's a pretty deep description of feeling gray, because if you're feeling gray in the world of color, you feel like you don't fit anywhere.
You feel like you're one of one. You don't feel like you can relate to anyone, or no one can relate to you. So you close yourself off, and you feel like you're the only person you can speak to. That's why you always speaking to yourself, questioning yourself, other stuff like that. But then again, too much of that is not good for your emotional health.
Emotional health, mental health. So was there a time where maybe you were dealing with some bouts of anxiety or depression or even a mood disorder? I know for me it was a mood disorder. I struggled a lot with mood disorders the years
Me, I just
afterward.
turned into a hoe.
Oh.
That's how I cope.
I'm
That's
gonna
how I
hit
do.
you up on that.
Right,
That's how I do.
right, yeah, right. See, I mean, we're just keeping 100 in the shoe shack. You know what I mean?
Yes, for real. It took me a long time to break that.
For me, what I did notice, and Mom, you may have noticed.
No, we really have to talk about this because she just vicariously just gonna spill the beans and say, well, shit, I just turned into a hoe. I just
It
decided.
became a coping mechanism for me.
How so? Like, how so? Literally.
Okay, like when you touched on how it was done and, you know, you found pleasure, but then you like, this was not supposed to happen. But damn, that felt good. So now I'm chasing that feeling that felt good.
Like an addiction.
It,
Really?
It was horrible. I've been sexually active, like willingly sexually active on my own since I was 12 years old.
I can
Wow.
actually confirm that. I seen a study like a lot of adult film, like
12?
Yeah.
like a lot of adult film actors that get into that it usually stems from that.
That's major. We're gonna talk about that. You're definitely gonna have to come back around and talk about.
Double back in the
We gonna have to double this back since you come every weekend. So we're definitely gonna have to bring some light to that. And listen, let's not just smooth by. You don't get to just slide that in. You know what I mean? That's not what is going down. I mean, he over here with the yag. I'm over
I
here.
mean, back to what I was saying earlier. A way it affected me socially, just because I felt like men wouldn't accept it at that much. If you ever noticed, I had more female friends than I had male friends.
Can I ask this question though? Was it that you personally could have been overthinking and thinking that you wasn't accepted, or was it just not accepted?
I felt like it was a combination.
Okay.
I felt like if I was to tell someone this, they wouldn't accept it. But then if I feel like I didn't, I was suffering, but because I was suffering to have a friendship. So.
Wow.
I have a question for you. So you said, you know, like most of your friends are female. Did you tell any of your female friends?
Very few.
And
What
how,
was the response?
Yeah,
what was the
like how
response?
was their reaction?
They were, in a word, dumbfounded. Because they were like, well, we've always seen it as a female thing happening before for a male to go through it, and for someone to be my friend and for a male to go through it. It just opened their eyes to like the fact that it can literally happen to anyone.
Were you aware of like your surroundings? Were you aware of or knew who your sexual predator was?
I didn't know, well, I didn't tell in the post that it was actually a male. I had a male attacker.
Oh, it was a male attacker.
Yeah, I would call him a predator.
Okay.
I can literally walk you through that day. Wow, I don't know.
You know the person?
No,
Did
I
you
did
know
not,
them?
No, I
Okay.
did not know him.
So this was like a random, somebody randomly attacked you.
Right.
Wow. Wow. So it was more of you feeling like I need to fight or trying to defend or hold on to your manhood while you was actually being assaulted.
Right.
Wow.
So I had to actually fight my way away from another male to, in a sense, keep my manhood protected. Because
But do you realize that when you're violated in that way, you remain a man after the violation? It does not emasculate you as a man because you did not voluntarily say, I want to be in a sexual relationship with another man.
Right, I knew that early on, but when you're 17 years old and that happens to you, you literally have a completely different outlook on life because it's like, wow.
And your peers too.
Yeah, like, you don't, that's why I literally stopped hanging around less and less men. Because if...
Did that affect your possibility of a football career? Because that's an all-male dominated sport, and
It affected it because, this is my first time saying this as well, it really affected it because I was on my way to football practice when it happened.
wow.
So going to practice was throughout that season, my senior season, going to practice was a constant reminder of that it happened. And having the outlet to put it out on the football field, and that helped me sweep it under the rug because I let the aggression or whatever feeling I had out. But once I stopped playing football and I had no outlet, it just built up. And it built up rapidly.
I do remember, I can recall vividly,
The night I told you.
I can remember it like it was yesterday. I could remember you coming home extremely late that day. And I could remember being so worried. I remember driving up to the school, driving around for football practice where they would be and no one being there. And I remember being upset that he wasn't home, but I knew that something had happened.
Because it was out of the ordinary for me not.
It was so strange because normally right before football practice would be over, he would call me and ask me to come pick him up. That was kind of like our routine because a lot of times I had to work. When he would have games, and so my daughters and my husband, I would be kind of like dependent on them to be in a representation to make sure he had the support, to know that someone was always there to support him, my son, both of my boys, that kind of thing. And I remember this day just being so out of the ordinary. I remember it. And I remember Christoper standing there, and I'm like, what is going on with you? Screaming to the top of my lungs. Like, what the hell? Why would you have me worry this way? And
the words that I said after that.
He stood there, and the tears started to come, and I'm like, I don't want to see no tears. You tell me where you were. You tell me right now. And the next words were bonchos.
The words were, he told me not to tell me. That's literally the only words I can say for the next 5 minutes.
I said, you have to tell me.
She said he. And then my mom, then again, I look into my mom's eyes and I can tell she's literally taking the jigsaw pieces and putting them together in her head. And then when it hit her, yeah, just white noise, literally.
It was, I must admit that it was devastating as a parent to feel that I was in there to protect my son. This was during a time where we were focused on building the home that we're in now. And I was working a lot of hours. I was working a lot, and I was so bound and determined to get my kids out of the neighborhood.
Because if you remember that September, was the incident with me.
That was the incident where my daughter, my youngest daughter, and my oldest son, and my nephew, oh wow, they were walking home, trying to come, because I had this rule that you need to be inside before dark. Like, I didn't play that, be out in the dark thing. And they was trying to get home, and there was an incident that occurred where some guys jumped on my boys and held my son and my daughter at gunpoint. While they jumped on my nephew, right? And I just remember like a flash, like you know, people say, I heard the thunder roar. I remember saying to myself, I have to get my kids out of here now. Like now. I could have been putting 2 of my own children in a box and standing with my best friend and her oldest son. You understand? I was ready to just throw everything out. Remember this? I said, we can throw all this furniture out and we're going to go stay in one of these hotels until this house is ready, because the house was already in the process. So now, this is right before we're moving here now, and I'm feeling accomplished as a parent, as a person, as a mother, that I was able to get my kids into a safer place. To hear my son, like, it was like, you know, when you're violated, there's flags, like you just know them. There's words, you just recognize them. And when he said, he told me not to tell, I'm like, wait, who told you not to tell? And then he kept saying, well, he said I couldn't tell. What? Who says this to you? That you can't come tell me why you're arriving home late. I'm still, so then he said it for the 3rd time, and tears start rolling down his eyes. And then I remember asking him, what happened to you? I said, I know something happened, and you tell me right now. You tell me in this very moment. I need you to tell me.
I said it again.
And he kept saying he couldn't tell me. And he's standing there. We're in the hallway like 30 minutes, like bouncing back and forth. So then, I don't know, I guess I'm getting my thinking cap on and I'm saying, well, is this somebody you know that's going to tell you not to tell me?
A little bit.
And then he went to saying, no. And then I'm saying, well, right. Billy always in the she shack. I don't know, I had like a light bulb moment, I think. And I remember asking him, did somebody do something to you? And he looked at me. It was almost like he was looking through me. I felt so helpless. Oftentimes, I still feel helpless. I feel a sense of responsibility because I pushed him so hard to play ball and be great. He had gotten a scholarship to Cheney, and I was so proud. He was all-star. He just was doing his thing, you know. And as a mom, you want your children to maximize to their greatest and their fullest potential. And I watched my son break that day. And as much as I wanted to be the glue to put him and hold him together, inside I knew I wasn't even strong enough. Because I was already dealing with being sexually violated and trying to learn how to live and cope with everyday things. Because I felt like a roller coaster sometimes from one minute to the next emotionally, especially when you're wearing a mask and you're hiding the fact that you're actually suffering yourself. you know, because suffering and it's like shows a sign of weakness as a parent, and as a young parent, I didn't see that there was actually strength in that.
Go.
I admire you, son. Not just because you're my son, but I admire you because you've made a decision that I'm not a victim anymore. I am a survivor. And that's big, to be a survivor. To be a survivor and not a victim, because when you lie in victimization, the predator still has power. You've relinquished the power from your predator, and now I'm a survivor, and now I'm healing.
I woke up the next morning, I said, that huge, like, burden was replaced with, like, an even bigger responsibility.
And what was that responsibility?
Well, it was more so I gotta make up for lost time. Because I felt like I've let this control me for so long that whatever potential I had turned into like a whole piece of cheese in my chest.
Wow. So now, wow, wow. So did it make you feel like you failed yourself? Like you failed yourself?
Not a sense of failure, more of a sense of, all right,
I'm mad as hell I let him do
I'm
this.
mad as hell that I'm now 8 years behind my potential. And I gotta play catch up with myself. Or I can either play catch up with myself or just shatter it all down and create a new foundation.
Like to shatter it all down and start a new foundation.
Wow. Wow. We're definitely having a part 2 of this segment. Let's just put that out there. On Thursday, Tamika's gonna close this session out. She is the author of the book Tequila's Way, and she will also have a testimony of survivorship that is going to blow your socks off. So I knew that this was going to have to be a 2-part series because there just wasn't enough time in one live to cover it all. We have a few minutes left, and I want to leave you with some words of encouragement. First thing, nothing, absolutely nothing happens that God cannot heal and build you up from.
You always told me he never gives me something.
God gives some of his biggest jobs to his strongest warriors. When you say, I feel like some old cheese, you're right on time. Because you have to trust the process of God's time. So you're not behind the clock. You arrive right on time. And God now has your undivided attention. You're the clay, and he is the potter. And he's going to mold you into this magnificent being that people on earth will be able to see, and that your blessing will be so profound, and your light will shine so bright that it will never ever be mistaken that anybody but God did it. You are an amazing son, friend, brother, uncle, grandson, nephew. You are absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your courage of sharing your story today. Don't stop shining that light. Don't stop being who you are. I'm going to give the last minutes to you. If you have a message that you want to leave with the viewers, or just something that you want to share, I give you this platform to do that right now.
Well, the first thing I want to say is, new single coming out at midnight. Tune into that. New single called Midnight. It's called My Life, featuring my friend Jordy. Shout out to Jordy. And I don't really have much to say, but I'm gonna just say this. Going through the process of going from the day on, I was like, all right, I can no longer let this control me, to building up the confidence to say not only what you feel like you need to say, but actually having the confidence to say what you want to say. And not being able, and not thinking about being judged on it, because once you like get past that wall, you come to a realization that everyone's gonna judge you. Especially in the field that I'm talking, especially in the music industry, everyone's gonna have something to say about something you did. And that's just with life. So learn to accept the negatives, but never take the negatives for what they are. Because more likely, the more negatives that our people are throwing at you, it's probably because you're doing so much positive, they're trying to overweigh the negative. So, my advice to anyone that's also going through this, just say something. You'll feel a million times better once you just say something, because you'll be surprised at how many people will support you. Because it definitely surprised me how many people supported me. I honestly thought that my friend count would drop, but more so it's made me closer to more of the closer friends I've had already, including the person that told me that he's been through that. It made me look like, well, someone I spent almost 10 years as a friend with experienced the same thing, and we were going through the same thing, feet away from each other, and we had no idea.
And I just had this random thought, because we were talking about you being violated by a male predator, but men can also be violated by female predators as well. There are women that are sexual predators, like there are men that are sexual predators. And I can't stress enough, if you have been affected by sexual assault or sexual trauma and you need some help, there is a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week crisis hotline. The information is posted in the group Conversations from the She Shack. We will also post it on Facebook, Instagram, and I will also have it on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for tuning in tonight. I really, really appreciate it. We will have a special part 2 on Thursday at 7 o'clock. I look forward to seeing you guys. Check out our YouTube channel, like it, subscribe. Let us be able to record live, have a YouTube channel and TV. We want to spread the word of unity and empowerment and transparency and love. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Kashaya, for joining me. Thank you, Christoper, for sharing your story. Thank you for viewing. Y'all have a good night. So that was good.
Music.
That was actually,
I already plugged my music in, you late. Follow me on Instagram, Twitter. All my social media is the same. beatbruzer, one word, all lowercase.
he will be performing in Atlanta next month. Yeah, this is his second time around.
You just gonna go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just gonna go and put it out there, you know, another proud parent moment. So yeah, this is his second time where he's gonna be performing some new music and competing and have the potential to go on a 3-city tour or something like that.
Tour.
So yeah.
If I remember off the top of my head, the date is May 15th. Yeah, May 15th.
Cheers to you, son.
Cheers to survival.
Cheers to surviving. Yeah. So next week, I will finally have Tamika here. She's in Florida right now. She got blessed with a trip to Disney, and so she will be here on Thursday, 7 o'clock, to lock us out, and make sure you're here, because we definitely gonna talk about this addiction that you have gotten over.